Stay down, trash.
Jason's polished shoe pinned the old man to the lobby floor. Coins pinged across marble as coffee spread in a dark stain. Emily's breath stopped. She knew that curing rusty brass, faded blue tag. Her father had carried the same one for 30 years. The lobby camera blinked red above them all. The old man rose, stepped into the elevator, and pressed penthouse. How did a homeless man know the code?
Before we begin, please subscribe and like. It really helps. Wishing you health and happiness. Alright, let's begin.
Chapter 2 Paper Trail. Lupita's office smelled like burnt coffee and old ink. Jason stood at her desk, index finger jabbing the air. File a trespassing report. That man assaulted me. His voice carried through the thin walls. Emily watched from the hallway, her pulse thudding in her ears. Lupita's pen didn't move. She turned to her computer instead, clicking through security footage with deliberate slowness. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 6:47 p.m. 18 minutes ago. The camera shows you approaching him first, Lupita said. Her tone stayed flat, professional, and your foot made contact with his ribs, twice. Jason's jaw tightened. He grabbed my ankle. After you kicked him. Lupita printed something. The machine whirred and spat out a single page. I'm required to document all physical altercations in common areas. Your name goes on this form as the initiating party. Emily's phone buzzed. A notification from Chase. Someone had logged into their joint account from an unrecognized device. She hadn't touched it in hours. Jason snatched the paper from Lupita's hand, scanned it, and crumpled it into his pocket. This building has standards. Homeless people don't belong in the lobby. That man had a key. Lupita's eyes flicked to Emily for just a moment. Building issued. Current. The words landed like a slap. Emily's father had a key. A legitimate key to this building where rent cost $4,000 a month. The math didn't add up. Nothing about tonight added up. Jason laughed a short, brittle sound. Check it again. Someone made a mistake. I don't make mistakes with resident records. Lupita pulled up another screen, but angled the monitor away from Jason's view. I suggest you return to your unit, Mr. Miller, before I'm required to escalate this. He turned and walked past Emily without a word. His cologne hit her first sandalwood and something sharper underneath, like sweat masked by expensive fragrance. He punched the elevator button 3 times. Emily stayed behind. Her legs felt rooted to the industrial carpet. Mrs. Miller. Lupita's voice dropped low. That man you saw, he's listed as Marcus Carter. Emergency contact for Unit 1204. She paused. Your unit. The elevator dinged. Jason's voice echoed down the hall. Emily. Now. She moved toward the sound, but her mind stayed stuck on a single question. When had her father become their emergency contact, and why hadn't Jason ever mentioned it? Chapter 3 The Money Moves. The apartment felt different at night. Emily sat at the kitchen island while Jason poured himself a bourbon, his third since they'd come upstairs. Ice cracked against glass. The clock on the microwave read 1147 p.m. You're overthinking this, he said. Some homeless guy got a stolen key. Happens all the time in buildings like this. Emily pulled up their Chase account on her laptop. The login notification still bothered her. 8:32 p.m. Downtown Seattle, a device she'd never seen. But that wasn't what stopped her breathing. She scrolled through 3 months of transactions. Between the mortgage payments and her hospital direct deposits, a pattern emerged. Every Tuesday, a Zelle transfer $800, same recipient, same memo line. Consulting. Who's David Chen? The name felt foreign in her mouth. Jason's glass paused halfway to his lips. Business contact. You sent him $32,000 since January. That's confidential. He set the bourbon down hard enough to slosh. Company reimbursement. You wouldn't understand the structure. Emily had processed medical billing for 6 years. She understood structures. She understood that $800 weekly transfers to a personal Zelle account didn't look like corporate consulting. They looked like payments someone wanted to hide. I need access to the statements, she said. No. Jason moved toward her, closing the laptop with one hand. His palm stayed flat on the cover. You handle your hospital spreadsheets. I handle our finances. That's how this works. His breath smelled like oak and caramel. His eyes didn't blink. That man in the lobby, Emily said. You knew he had a real key. That's why you panicked. I didn't panic. You kicked a 60-year-old man in the ribs because he made you nervous. What exactly did he say to you before I walked in? Jason's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at the screen, a quick flash of white text, and silenced it immediately. Go to bed, Emily. He grabbed his keys from the hook by the door. I need to handle something at the office. It was nearly midnight. His office was 30 minutes away, but she didn't argue. She waited until the door clicked shut, then opened the laptop again. The Zelle payments had started the same week they'd moved into this building. Every single Tuesday without exception. Whatever Jason was paying for, it began the moment they signed this lease. Chapter 4: Cutting Ties. Jason came home at 6 a.m. with coffee from Starbucks and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He handed Emily a vanilla latte like nothing had happened, like he hadn't disappeared for 6 hours in the middle of the night. I've been thinking, he said. We should upgrade. There's a new development in Bellevue waterfront units. Better security. Emily wrapped her hands around the warm cup. We just renewed our lease 3 months ago. Leases can be broken. He pulled out his phone, swiped to Zillow. Look at this one. 2.3 million. But we could stretch. The listing showed floor-to-ceiling windows and a chef's kitchen. It also showed a move-in date of next month. Jason had already saved it to his favorites. This is about last night, Emily said. This is about our future. He set the phone on the counter between them. Better neighborhood, better schools for when we don't have kids. Eventually, his jaw flexed. The point is, this building isn't working. The management is incompetent. The residents are. Your emergency contact is Marcus Carter. Jason's hand stopped mid-reach for his coffee. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. 4, 5. That's a database error. Lupita showed me the record. Listed since we moved in. Emily watched his face, searching for the crack in his composure. You put my father's name on our lease without telling me. I didn't put anyone's name anywhere. Then who did? He grabbed her phone from the counter before she could react. His thumb moved fast. Settings, contacts, family. He deleted 3 numbers in 4 seconds. Mom old, Dad cell, Aunt Ruth. What are you doing? Emily lunged for the phone, but he held it out of reach. Protecting us? He pressed the side button, locking the screen. Your family is a liability. Your father shows up looking like a transient, causes a scene in our building. Do you know what that does to my reputation? He's my father. He's a problem. Jason shoved the phone into his pocket. And until I figure out why he has a key to this building, you're not contacting him. Emily felt the walls shrink. The kitchen that cost them $4,800 a month suddenly felt like a cage. Her husband stood between her and the door, 6'1" of expensive cologne and controlled anger. I want my phone back, when I trust you to use it properly. He walked to the bedroom and shut the door. The lock clicked, a sound she'd never heard him make before. In 4 years of marriage, they'd never locked doors against each other. Emily stood in the kitchen, phoneless, watching dawn light creep across the counter. Her father was somewhere in this building. Her husband was keeping secrets that cost $800 a week, and she had no way to contact anyone who might tell her the truth. Chapter 5: The Letter. The mailroom stayed open until 9 p.m. Emily waited until Jason left for work. 8:15 sharp. Charcoal suit, no goodbye kiss before she took the stairs down to the lobby. Lupita stood by the management office, sorting packages into numbered cubbies. She looked up when Emily approached, her expression careful, neutral. Mrs. Miller, can I help you? I need to check our mailbox. Of course. Lupita handed her a small key, box 1204. You'll need to sign the log. Emily's hands trembled as she opened the brass door. Bills, a Pottery Barn catalog, a dental reminder for Jason's cleaning next month, and underneath it all, a plain white envelope with no stamp. The return address read Cascade Holdings LLC, 47th floor, Columbia Center, Seattle. The recipient line said Marcus Carter, Co-Unit 1204. Emily stared at her father's name printed on mail delivered to her apartment. The envelope had been opened a clean slice along the top, then carefully resealed with tape. That came yesterday, Lupita said from behind her. I noticed it during morning rounds. Someone opened it. Yes. Lupita's voice dropped. Someone with access to your box. The tape is from our supply closet. Emily slid the letter out. Single page, heavy cardstock, legal language she didn't fully understand, but 3 phrases jumped out: majority stakeholder, property management authority, and beneficial owner since 2019. Her father owned this building. Her father, the man her husband had kicked in the ribs and called trash, owned the building they'd paid $4,000 a month to live in for 3 years. I didn't know, Emily whispered. Most people don't. Lupita crossed her arms. The LLC structure keeps it private, but after last night, I pulled the records myself. Marcus Carter holds 62% through a family trust. The lobby felt like it was tilting. Emily grabbed the edge of the mailbox to steady herself. Why would he pretend to be homeless? That's not my question to answer. Lupita took the letter gently from Emily's hands, photographed it with her phone, and handed it back. But I'd suggest you ask him yourself. Penthouse access code is 1947. His mother's birth year. Emily looked at the elevator across the lobby. The same elevator her father had stepped into last night, pressing a button her husband would never be allowed to reach. What else had Marcus Carter been watching from above? Chapter 6: The Owner's Terms. The penthouse smelled like lemon oil and old books. Emily stepped off the elevator into a foyer larger than her entire apartment. Hardwood floors stretched toward floor-to-ceiling windows. The Space Needle glittered in the distance. Her father sat in a leather armchair by the window, reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd changed clothes, clean khakis, a pressed blue shirt. He looked like a professor. He looked like someone who belonged here. You found the letter, he said. Not a question. Emily held up the envelope. You own this building. 62%. The rest is split between 3 investment groups. He removed his glasses, folded them carefully. Sit down, Emily, please. She didn't sit. Why pretend to be homeless? Why let Jason? I needed to see what kind of man he was. Marcus gestured to a folder on the coffee table. Sit. I'll show you what I found. Emily lowered herself onto the opposite couch. The leather creaked beneath her. The folder contained bank statements, property records, and printed email chains she didn't recognize. Jason's consulting payments, Marcus said. $32,000 to a man named David Chen. You saw those in your joint account. Who is David Chen? A broker. Marcus flipped to a highlighted section. He helps tenants in my building secure favorable lease terms in exchange for considerations, kickbacks, essentially. Jason paid him to guarantee your unit. Emily's throat tightened. We got this apartment through a waitlist. There was no waitlist. Chen moved you to the front of a line that didn't exist. Marcus pulled out another document, a lease agreement with Jason's signature at the bottom. Your husband also added my name as emergency contact. He thought it would provide cover if anyone ever traced the payments back to the property owner. Cover for what? For this. Marcus handed her a final page. A screenshot of a text conversation. Jason's number at the top, David Chen's responses below. The messages discussed the old man problem. They mentioned removing the liability. They outlined a plan to file false trespassing reports and use HOA pressure to force a resident out of the building. The target was Marcus Carter, her father. He didn't know I owned the building, Marcus said quietly. He just knew an elderly black man had been seen in the penthouse elevator. That was enough for him to want me gone. Emily read the timestamp on the final message. 3 days ago, 72 hours before the lobby incident. He planned this, she whispered. Yes. Marcus leaned forward. And Lupita has the security footage, the trespassing complaint he filed, and the HOA violation he tried to push through this morning. Everything is documented. The city lights blurred through Emily's tears. Her husband had orchestrated an attack on her father, not out of ignorance, out of calculated malice. What happens now? Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was warm, calloused at the base of his thumb. That depends on you. Chapter 7 The Community Turns. Nadine Park posted the footage at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. No commentary, no accusations, just 32 seconds of lobby security camera footage, uploaded to the building's private HOA app with a single caption: Incident November 3, 6:47 p.m. Resident files available upon request. Emily watched the comments roll in from her laptop in the penthouse. Her father sat across the room, silent, giving her space. That's assault. Unit 803. Has anyone contacted police? Unit 415. I saw this man in the elevator last week. Very polite. Held the door for my daughter. Unit 1102. The other guy lives in 1204, right? My wife says he yelled at the valet last month. Unit 922. By 9 p.m., the thread had 147 comments. By midnight, someone had pulled Jason's LinkedIn profile and posted screenshots. His employer Meridian Development Partners started getting tagged. Jason's phone rang constantly. Emily could hear the buzzing through the bedroom wall, where she'd locked him out 6 hours earlier. He pounded on the door twice. She didn't answer. They're calling me a racist, he shouted through the wood. This is your father's fault. He set me up. Emily pressed her palms against her ears. The muffled shouting continued for another 10 minutes before footsteps retreated toward the living room. At 2 a.m., she heard the front door open and close. The deadbolt clicked from outside. She waited 30 minutes before checking. Jason's suitcase was gone. His passport holder, the leather one she'd bought him for their first anniversary, was missing from the drawer. His side of the closet looked ransacked. He'd taken everything he could carry in 20 minutes. Emily walked to the window and looked down at the parking garage exit. A black Audi pulled out, headlights cutting through the dark. It turned left toward the freeway. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't worry about the lease. You're not the one getting evicted. L.R. Lapita, the building manager who'd been documenting everything from the start. Emily typed back, what happens to him? The response came in 3 seconds. HOA meeting tomorrow, 6 p.m. Attendance mandatory for Unit 1204. Chapter 8 Desperate Measures. Jason returned at noon the next day. He walked in without knocking. The deadbolt had been his, the spare key still in his wallet. Emily sat at the kitchen island, eating toast she couldn't taste. We need to talk. He set his briefcase on the counter. His eyes were bloodshot, his collar wrinkled. This has gotten out of control. You kicked my father. I didn't know he was your father. You planned to have an old man evicted because he used the penthouse elevator. Emily pushed her plate away. You paid a broker $30,000 to cheat our way into this building. And you deleted my family's contact information from my phone. Jason's hand moved toward her wrist. She pulled back. I can fix this, he said. I'll apologize at the meeting. Make a donation to some charity. People forget. The video has 40,000 views. It'll blow over. He opened his banking app, turned the screen toward her. Look, I've transferred everything to a new account. Our joint access is frozen. You don't need to worry about money. Emily stared at the screen. The joint account balance read $127.43. Yesterday it had held $19,000. You emptied it. I'm protecting our assets. He pocketed the phone. Until this settles, I'm handling finances. You can use the credit card for groceries, but the limit is $500. The walls pressed in again. Same cage, tighter bars. I'm going to the meeting tonight, Emily said. No, you're not. It's mandatory for our unit. Then I'll represent our unit. Jason moved between her and the door. You'll stay here. Order dinner. Wait for me to come back and tell you everything is fine. His voice had the same tone he used with waiters who brought the wrong order. Dismissive. Final. I'm not asking your permission. Emily stood. Her chair scraped against the floor. Jason's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. not hard enough to bruise, just hard enough to stop her movement. His thumb pressed into her pulse point. "You are my wife." Each word landed like a separate sentence. "You will do what I say." The kitchen clock ticked. Afternoon light slanted through the window. Emily felt her heartbeat against his thumb steady, despite everything. "Let go of me." He held on for 3 more seconds. Then his fingers opened, and he stepped back. 6 p.m., he said. "I'll handle it." He walked to the bedroom and shut the door. The lock clicked. Emily grabbed her keys from the hook and left the apartment. The elevator took 8 seconds to arrive. She pressed the button for the lobby and didn't look back. Chapter 9: The Reckoning. The community room held 43 people. Folding chairs faced a long table where Lapita sat with 2 board members and a man in a gray suit Emily didn't recognize. Her father stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. Jason arrived at 602, slightly out of breath. He scanned the room, found Emily in the 3rd row, and his face went pale. "This meeting is now in session." Lupita's voice cut through the murmuring. "We're here to address an incident involving a resident of Unit 1204 and the owner of this property." Jason's head snapped toward Marcus. "Owner? Mr. Marcus Carter holds 62% of Cascade Holdings LLC. Lupita projected a document onto the screen behind her. "This building has been part of his family trust since 2019. His daughter, Emily Carter Miller, is listed on the original documentation as a secondary beneficiary." The room shifted. 42 pairs of eyes moved between Jason and the man he'd kicked. "I'd like to present the evidence chronologically." Lupita clicked to the next slide. November 1st, Mr. Miller contacted David Chen regarding what he called the old man problem. She read the texts aloud, each word landing like a hammer. Jason stood. "Those messages are out of context." "Sit down, Mr. Miller." The man in the gray suit spoke for the first time. "I'm Robert Tanaka, legal counsel for the HOA. You'll have an opportunity to respond." Jason sat. His hands gripped his knees. Lupita continued. "Security footage from 3 separate cameras. The trespassing complaint filed at 7:15 p.m. after Jason had kicked Marcus, not before. A printed email from Jason to the HOA board requesting enhanced screening protocols for elevator access." Then she placed a keyring on the table. "Rusty brass, faded blue tag. This key," Lupita said, "opens every door in this building. It belonged to Mr. Carter's mother, who lived in the penthouse until her death in 2018. It has never been deactivated." Marcus stepped forward. He picked up the keyring and held it where everyone could see. "My mother built this building in 1974, he said. "She raised me 3 blocks from here, back when this neighborhood had check cashing stores instead of coffee shops. She wore the same clothes every day so she could save enough for one property, then another, then this one." He set the key down. "I dressed like her yesterday. Old hoodie, worn shoes. I wanted to see how her building treated people who looked like she used to look." He turned to Jason. "You answered that question clearly." The room was silent. Someone in the back row coughed. "Based on the documented evidence," Lupita said, "the board has voted to terminate Mr. Miller's lease effective immediately. Security deposits will not be refunded due to violation of community conduct policies. Additionally, Mr. Miller is barred from entering the premises after midnight tonight." Jason's chair scraped as he stood. "You can't do this. I have rights." "You have the right to collect your belongings with a security escort." Robert Tanaka slid a document across the table. "And you should know that Meridian Development Partners received a formal complaint this afternoon regarding your conduct. Their HR department will be in contact." The meeting ended at 6:47 p.m. Exactly 24 hours after Jason's shoe had connected with Marcus Carter's ribs. Chapter 10: New Ground. The moving truck left at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. Emily watched from the penthouse window as the last of Jason's boxes disappeared into the cargo hold. He didn't look up at the building. He didn't wave. "How do you feel?" Her father stood beside her, 2 mugs of coffee in his hands. "Empty." She took the mug. The ceramic was warm against her palms, but not sad. Marcus nodded. That's the right kind of empty, the kind that leaves room for something else. They sat in the leather chairs by the window, the same spot where she'd first read the documents that unraveled her marriage. The Space Needle caught the afternoon light, turning silver and gold. I never asked you for money, Emily said. In 4 years, I never asked. I know. Jason told me my family was an embarrassment, that I married up and should act like it. She stared into her coffee. I believed him long enough to delete your number myself, before he ever took my phone. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. Your mother called me trash the day I proposed to her. He smiled at Emily's surprise, said I was too poor, too dark, too country for a city girl. She changed her mind eventually, but those words stayed with me, made me work harder, save more, build bigger, partly to prove her wrong, partly because I was afraid she was right. She never told me that. She was ashamed of who she used to be. He set his mug down. People change, Emily. The question is whether they change because they choose to, or because life forces their hand. Emily thought about Jason in the lobby, his polished shoe pinning an old man to the floor. She thought about the meetings he'd missed, the secrets he'd kept, the $32,000 spent protecting a con. He'd had 4 years to choose differently. He never did. I want to learn, she said, about the buildings, the trust, how it all works. It'll take time. I have time. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the keyring rusty brass, faded blue tag. He placed it in her palm and closed her fingers around it. Your grandmother's, he said. She wanted you to have it when you were ready. The metal was cool against her skin. It smelled like old pennies and something faintly floral, like a memory she couldn't quite place. What does it open? Everything? Marcus stood, looking out at the city his mother had built from nothing. But only when you're the one turning the lock. Emily held the key. Outside, the moving truck turned left toward the freeway. Inside, the penthouse was quiet except for the soft hum of the coffee maker and the distant sound of traffic far below. She'd lost a husband, a home, and 4 years of believing someone else's story about who she was. But she'd found something older, something that had been waiting for her all along. The key fit perfectly in her hand, like it had always belonged there.
Thanks for listening. I hope this gave your heart a quiet moment to rest. See you next time.